Director Global Senior de Social Media and Video en Lego Group y nombrado por muchos como la leyenda del marketing digital. Él está detrás del éxito global de las plataformas digitales de Lego Group, una de las compañías más disruptivas del mundo, y ha sido nombrado como uno de los 25 marqueteros más innovadores e influyentes en Europa por el informe Holmes. Este especialista danés ha impulsado la participación en tiempo real de la marca con sus consumidores en todo el mundo y ha logrado que esta afamada marca de juguetes sea reconocida por Adweek como la número 1 en redes sociales y video, y la más atractiva e innovadora según Media Post. En este 5º aniversario de FOA República Dominicana, por primera vez en nuestro país, Lars Silberbauer.
Hello. How are you? Good, good. So it's me between you and drinks. That's always a good starting point. So today we're going to talk about Lego. We're going to talk about change. And I'm going to share a bit about my history in trying to change the mindset of a global company and a global brand like Lego. So right now, and actually this is a bit personal for me, this presentation, because this is going to be my very last presentation for Lego. I'm leaving tomorrow, end of work. So I've been building the Lego digital capabilities for about 7 years. And now I'm leaving to go to New York to hopefully do the same thing for the MTV brand. Thank you. But I'm going to talk today about this little thing. I hope the mic is all right. This is a Lego brick, and this brick has been the same for around 60 years. And the challenge with selling a Lego brick is that it is the same thing. And it has been the same thing for pretty much forever. So it's a plastic brick. You can produce this yourself if you want to. You cannot call it Lego, but besides that, you can actually do what you want to with producing plastic bricks. And the way that we managed to keep this plastic brick relevant for the last many years is by producing content. So we are producing TV series, we are producing blockbuster movies every year, at least one. We're producing webisodes, and we're producing tons and tons of content. And the point is that we want kids and adults, of course, to experience the universes around Lego, to experience the characters, and then dive into the world of Lego. But the even better part of Lego is that it's a platform. It's a starting point for play and for creativity. So every time we produce one video, we see 25 videos produced by users being uploaded on YouTube, on Instagram, or whatever digital network you might find. And that's the power of Lego. Lego is not a finalized product, it's a starting point, it's a platform. So to go back to where I started 7 years ago, I was brought into Lego. They hired one person to figure out social media, YouTube, everything. Can you please sort this out? And we were very late in the game. There was like our competitors were already there, like all of the consumers were already there, so we had to really kickstart this. And I'm now based in London, but at that point I was based in Denmark, where Lego is still based. It's based in a very small town. And I was moving back from New York and then to Copenhagen, the capital, and then ended up in this very, very tiny little village. And I might have been a slightly bit arrogant. This city has 9,000 people who lives in the city. The nightlife is depressing at best. So I might have been a bit, as the city boy, coming in and being a bit arrogant. So one of the old-time employees, he built me this one in Lego. And he went away and said, like, I'm going to build you a Lego product, or a Lego build. And then he came back with this one to really remind me about the fact that when you work for a brand, a love brand like Lego, then you need to be really, really humble towards the fact and the responsibility that you actually have working for it. So we've been busy for the last 7 years, and I'm just going to show a short sizzle reel about what we've been working on. Audio, please. Could you turn on the audio? Okay. audio, please. Thank you.
I used to build some pretty mean Lego towers when I was a kid.
This is my cranky wonky with the male cranky wonky. This is my cranky wonky.
Who's saying everybody?
This week on the Lego News Show.
Well, it's just so I can get my ideas out and then I can see what they actually look like in bricks.
Drop the mic.
Thank you. So just a few numbers on the growth that we've been able to accelerate at Lego. So we are right now outpacing the growth of all of our competitors on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on all of the social channels. We're increasing our subscribers on YouTube with 1 million every third month. And the time that we actually deliver just on our own main YouTube channel to kids and adults every year is almost 9,000 years of watch time. And how much is 9,000 years? It's, if you calculate it into Mars trips, you can go 11,500 trips, return trips to Mars. And actually, if you start watching Lego content from the moment you're born to the moment you die, you stay up every night, then you need to live 107 times to actually really see the same amount of content. So we are delivering a massive amount of content, and we also know that YouTube is one of the biggest sales drivers that we have. On social media, like we are globally based, we are on pretty much all channels, from VKontakte in Russia to WeChat in China to Facebook and Instagram everywhere else. We have a network reach around 30 million monthly, just on YouTube, and then if you add the social channels, it's more around 50 million that we reach. On a good day, we can reach 36 million just organically through one Facebook post. So for us, it's turned into a network. It's turned into a digital network that we are really seeing the impact of. My team is based globally. We need to be 24/7 on all platforms. So I have a team in Shanghai, Singapore, New York, London, and then also still in Denmark. And all of these teams have 8-hour shifts and then hand it over to make sure that we are on the platforms when the consumers are there. So the challenge I got when I got into Lego, it was basically, please can you aggressively build and drive the competencies of the companies in the digital space? You need to build these competencies globally, but you also need to do it in an environment that is ever changing. We know that the only constant that we have is basically that change is going to happen. It's going to happen more often. It's going to have more impact. So we still need to build something that's sustainable in this disruptive environment, and that was the challenge that I got. So what kind of disruptions do we look at? Like we can see AR, we can see so AI or AR, or we can see blockchain. We have a lot of different disruptors that are disrupting all kinds of areas. And these are the changes that we will need to either leverage or we need to be disrupted by if we want to really continue being in business. And just one of them that I want to dive into is the thing about the East. We've been used to look to Silicon Valley for many, many years for innovation. It always happened in San Francisco first, and then it happened to the rest of the world. Of course, it's still the case. There's a lot of stuff happening, but I spend more and more time in Chengdu, in Zhejiang, in Guangzhou, in Beijing, and Shanghai, because that's really where you see the future of tomorrow. So we want to see how marketing looks like in the future, then we really need to understand how it is working right now in China. So just to give a few examples on why you should care about China even though you don't live in China. So a lot of people have it this way that, well, China's far away, I don't give a shit, it's China, but really it's starting to impact the world more and more. How many have been using Musical.ly or have teenage daughters who've been using Musical.ly? Yeah? It's a 100% Chinese platform developed in China, and it's really impacting the world right now. It's also the first platform that was acquired by a Chinese company, ByteDance, who then merged it with another Chinese platform called TikTok, or it's called Douyin in China. And now they're the first platform that actually has a global penetration, both massive penetration in the US market, but also extremely heavily used in China. Snapchat, how many are using Snapchat? Yes? Chinese investors, Tencent are huge investors in Snapchat and of course trying to get as much out of that as possible. And they also acquired Supercell, who is one of the most popular mobile games that we have in the world. So extreme Chinese influence is happening everywhere. One of my favorite charts is this one, and it's a chart that shows how the GNP, so the center of financial abilities, has moved over the last 2,000 years. So basically here, McKinsey has taken the GNP for all nations and then put it as one point, and then we can see how it moves. It starts like basically east of Iran, Afghanistan, then it moves within like 500, 800 years, it starts moving upwards, and suddenly with industrialization, it suddenly takes a rapid move to the west, to the US, and towards the UK, of course. Then it suddenly stops to go slower, and then we see an even faster return to the east, a bit more north because of China's impact on the whole world economy, but it's really, really turning east again. And also, if you look at this change, and if you add the growth in populations in Asia, then it's estimated that this change is going to be 300 times stronger than industrialization. That changed society like enormously, and this is going to be 300 times more. So it's really important that if we want to understand the marketing world of the future, that we also acknowledges these massive changes in the financial landscape. So in China, of course, it's facilitated by what you call SOOT. It's about scale, it's about openness, it's about the official support that all the Chinese platforms are getting, and then it's of course about the technology that you see is being developed in China. China is developing around 7 million university students a year. They're probably not all excellent, but the massive scale of innovation that takes place in China and development of knowledge is going to impact us a lot. So here we have the Chinese ecosystem versus the Western ecosystem. It's just as complex, it's just as messy, but there is a lot of things happening. One of the interesting things that I've been looking into for the last couple of years is a company called Meitu. How many are using Meitu? Anyone knows them? That's a few. So it's a platform, it's an app where you can beautify yourself. And because you're also beautiful, you of course don't need that. But some people do. And here you can see some examples on how you can get a lighter skin. You can get, like, I'm sure there will be a lot of disappointed guys meeting blind dates. You can beautify the world. Looks better. And any guess how many monthly active users? What? 270 million active users on Meitu. And that's again because they understood one single human behavior. Like the behavior was basically, we want to take a selfie. And then they started developing a company based on this. So they have a whole portfolio of apps, so you don't need to get up and put on makeup before you take a selfie. You can have an app, put on the makeup, and then you can take a beautiful selfie. It's quite impressive. And you can also buy, of course, the Meitu phones. It's a special hardware device optimized for selfies. You can buy your Hello Kitty branded selfie stick and remote control. And Meitu phones, actually, if you go around in Shanghai, you can see this phone and you can recognize it by the small triangle in the bottom. You can see that it's a very, very popular phone amongst the teenagers. So they have developed, and they did the biggest IPO in 15 years on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and they are collecting, of course, a huge amount of data. But the really interesting thing about this company is that they're also applying image recognition and facial recognition into the app, and they're also applying a lot of big data. So what this app actually does is, when you take a selfie, it saves the beautified image, but also saves the normal image. And then you take a number of different selfies, and then they basically generate a 3D image of your face and put that into that database. And then they start doing image recognition based on your face, so you can be recognized when you walk into a store. They know that you've been into the store and you've advertised on the platform. An even more scary fact is that to operate in China, all platforms need to have the decryption keys handed over to the Chinese government so they can look into any kind of data that they want to. So here we have a brilliant example on how to collect tons and tons of data on people's faces, and then both use it for commercial purposes, but of course there is a slightly by effect that you actually also hand it over to the Chinese government. So we might be focused on GDPR, but there is bigger concerns out there. So how to deal with disruption? We see all of these disruptions, and it's just going to get more and more impactful. You can ignore it. A lot of companies have tried that. Kodak was one of them. You can try to react to it and catch up to it. We've done that at Lego. That was basically why I was brought in. We try to also predict it and embrace disruption. And also, when we're very ambitious on a good day in the office, we also try to create disruption. We really try to make sure that we create the world that we believe is the best for the brand. So our goal in my team is not to be the best at developing Facebook applications or develop Instagram posts. That will be legacy at some point, and we don't know when. But our goal is to be the best at adapting to, predicting, and creating change in the digital landscape. That's the only core competency that we know will be sustainable. If we are the best company and the best team at handling change, then we will win, because there will be a lot of changes that will threaten the industry, it will threaten our competitors, it will also threaten us, but we should be able to handle that the best. So who are the world champions in handling change? Anyone? We believe in kids. We need to take inspiration from kids in the way that we handle everything new that we see. Kids are extremely open in the way that they look at things. They try to interpret it in a lot of different ways. They've not been structured, they've not been learning a lot of processes, and they don't have this weight of the whole world when they look at new things. And we need to take inspiration from that. So we try every time we come across new things to look at it as if we were kids. We need to play around with things, and we shouldn't just sit there and try to analyze everything. We need to play around with things. I believe that we have spent, both in Lego and my previous companies, way too much time in looking at the past, analyzing the past, and trying to predict the future, instead of actually just really playing around with things and bring our imaginations to life and see how it actually looks like in the real world. And that is what we should do a lot more. So focusing on what I would say, it's not big secrets because I'm going to share it with you, but at least 6 areas where we believe that we have focused and has created a lot of impact for us. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is social needs and how we have leveraged social needs. And in my opinion, social media is nothing but a set of technologies that just enhances our social nature. So basically, whatever we have in us or whatever we see on social media, it comes from human behavior. So when Meitu is developing a billion-dollar business on selfies, that is because they understand the social interaction that happens when you're doing a photo of yourself and you're sharing it. They understand that, and then they can build a business on that one. So we need to also understand what social needs that are relevant for our business to be able to really take advantage of this area. So at Lego, we've been researching a lot, and we've been trying out a lot, we've been playing around a lot, and we come up with, like, these are the core needs that, at least in digital, it works for us to build engagement, to build project campaigns based on these 2 things. So it's about building together and then the pride of creation. What I mean about this, so building together is quite natural. Like, if you see cops playing, they're playing together. If you see kids, they want to play together, because that's when you learn the best, when you play together. And these are a few images from a competition that is done globally called First Lego League. And that's basically kids building Lego robots and competing against each other in these competitions. And you can see how these kids are really immersed in that experience, and also when they actually succeed, you see the joy and happiness of those kids. So building together, that's a huge social need and a social behavior that we see. The other one is pride of creation, and that goes back to, again, the selfie thing. If you search for Lego on social media, you'll find tons and tons of people sharing their creations, and these are just random pictures. You'll also find a lot of parents sharing pictures of their creations, of their kids showing off their creations. So there's really a strong need for showing off on online and in any kind of digital media. So what do we see when we search the internet? We see cute kids sharing robots, like cute robots. You see other kids sharing something that I have no idea what this is. It does not make sense. But I'm sure if I ask that kid about what this is, how did this came to life, he will have a story about it. And he will start to explain, well, this is a robot arm or a robot spaceship, I don't know what. And that's the fantastic thing about Lego, that it brings to life your imagination and really brings it into the real world. We also have adult fans of Lego. Sometimes it gets a bit too much. And we have really, really good photo opportunities, like this guy who built a replica of the ISS space station while he was on the space station. So if you want to build when you're waitlist, you need something like this to make sure you have all the bricks gathered together. Often when I meet agencies, they say like, yes, that's great with user-generated content, but we need some really high-quality content as well. And then I tend to show them these pictures from a Swedish Lego fan and also photographer, which shows like the level of skills that some of these adult fans of Lego, they really have. This is absolutely amazing, and I've seen the process about how he does this. It's not just computer images, it's about having a special liquid and then dust and lighting and so on. It's absolutely fantastic. So that was the first, the social needs are so important. Secondly, I think the old way of doing marketing is like we were sitting in the office telling a creative agency to come up with a way to have this one message, and then we're going to bombard people with TV advertisement. We're going to expose marketing to their eyeballs so many times they start buying our products. I don't think it's going to work anymore. I think it's going to change, and it has already changed. So what we try to do instead is we don't want to craft a message. We want to craft a stage where people can really engage. So the first project I did at Lego, it's later been called the $100 campaign, and it was an accessory that we did together with Apple. So it's a Lego set. It was also an app you had to download, and the app would ask you questions or competitions that you have to build with Lego bricks and image recognition. It was extremely complex to actually do. So we didn't have the real money to do like a global TV campaign for this, was not at all. And I also wanted people to think differently. I wanted people to change their mindset. And to do that, I used an old trick, is basically to give people so ridiculous constraints that they would need to start thinking differently. So instead of having a budget, I asked people to empty their pockets and put them on the table at the first kickoff meeting. And we had around $100 all in all. So that would be the campaign budget. We would still need to do a global campaign. We would need to reach thousands and thousands of consumers with this campaign, but we only had $100. And I don't know how many of you there are from agencies, but I am quite sure that very few of you would pick up the phone if the client had $100 to do a campaign for. So that required people to think, and it required them to challenge themselves and look at the social needs, the trends that are out there, and come up with something new. So what we came up with was extremely simple. It was basically a stage. We wanted people to build together, and then we want them to show off what they've built. So we asked them to focus on this guy that was part of the product. His name is George, and he's fairly simple to build. So we just asked people, build George, help us make him travel the world. He wants to see the world. Find your Lego bricks, and that was basically it. Then we promised people they could win for $100 of Lego if they were the best ones. So it was quite exciting, and 20 minutes after we started this campaign, we saw the first images popping up of course, this is from Greece. Then he went to Spain, and always there was a story around this. So this was really George that went traveling. Everything is user generated. Then he went to Hollywood, he went to San Francisco, he went to Hawaii, he went to Australia and got a kiss from a kangaroo. He went to go for a walk on the Bund in Shanghai. Everyone knows when you're traveling, you need to get your hair cut at some point. He got a haircut. A woman brought George to a friend's wedding. Another user saw that and thought, like, George must be lonely, so he should find his one and only. He did. The unfortunate thing happened that his ex-girlfriend showed up. And I don't know if you can see it, but it says relationship status, it's complicated. And if you look very close to the picture, you can see she's actually pregnant. She has a little bump. At that point in time, the company was so conservative or so risk-averse that I had to sit in meetings with our legal counseling to discuss whether we should have this taken down, because would this encourage improper behavior amongst kids and adults, which I don't think we really did. This guy won the competition, or the whole thing. He took George on a motorbike with him to do a show in Las Vegas. And before I went here, I was actually like, this was 7 years ago. So I wanted to see if George was still out there. And this is uploaded 2 weeks ago from the southern tip of Borneo, where George is still out there traveling. So by creating a stage instead of just a message, we really gave people a platform where they could use their inspiration, their creativity, and get their ideas out and see them travel. Another way, so we took it a bit further, and this is a project we did together with Google called the Lego Built with Chrome project, where we wanted the same way. We wanted to have people built for us. We wanted to have people actually giving them some tools and then see how far they could actually take this. Thank you. And then we wanted to take it a bit further, and this was the biggest project we've done so far, and that's called the Cronky Wonky project. And again, this is a quite personal project for me, because I was both the creator of the idea and also head of all of the productions on this one. What we wanted with this one, the Cronky Wonky project, is to celebrate creativity and also to make sure that people knew that Lego is not a product you just build and then you put it on the shelf. Like the amazing thing is free building and creativity, as mentioned before. So we wanted to team up with a platform that was the biggest platform for parents. We wanted to target parents with this message or this campaign. And Facebook's tagline at that point was making the world more open and connected. And we can say that they certainly have done that by giving all of our data to Cambridge Analytica later on. But it fitted very nicely in with our message about inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. So we know that the consumer is acting differently, is behaving differently compared to 5 or 10 years ago. So we wanted to create a different product. We wanted to reach out to them in a different way. And that also means that you need to change the process. You need to change the way that you do things. So instead of having a call to a creative agency and a media agency, instead we just teamed up with Facebook. And we put down a team of these lovely people, and we worked so closely together that we basically didn't know if we were meeting at Facebook office today, and Facebook guards thought that we were Facebook people and the other way around. So we came up with everything and we developed the whole thing ourselves because we wanted to try something new and do it in a different way. So the insights behind this project is that 98% of us in this room, if we were measured at the age of 3, then we would be measured as creative geniuses. When you are at the age of 3, your brain is completely open and able to take in all of the input. You're able to interpret everything in a completely open way. And that's a good thing. So we are all creative geniuses. The problem is that only 2% of us have retained these levels of creativity today. And I don't know if anyone is brave enough to say, like, I'm the 2%. No? We can also agree that we are the 2% who still is extremely creative. So with this project, we wanted to set out and celebrate the fact that all kids have this ability. And it's not UK kids or German kids or American kids, it's all kids in the entire world who has this amazing creative ability to hopefully solve some of the issues that we leave behind. So to do this, again, we wanted to create a stage, we wanted to make people build together. So we basically asked a lot of families if we could come into their playrooms or wherever their kids played with Lego bricks. And then we just asked them one question. We would ask them to build a Cronky Wonky. Everyone knows what a Cronky Wonky is? No? That's because you're not creative. And that's because this is how we react as adults. We haven't seen it before, so we don't know what it is. But don't worry, like we asked Twitter, no idea, no surprise there. Instagram, no idea. Wikipedia, no idea what a Cronky Wonky is. And also Google, even Google didn't know what a Cronky Wonky is. But then we went into kids' playroom and we asked kids, and this is not scripted, we didn't script anything. We spent hours and hours of seeing kids getting that question about what is a Cronky Wonky, because they do know what it is.
Was ist das denn? That type of word, I think it's like a kissing spaceship. Training. Sie leben auf dem Mond. Una casa. It'll be mostly white. And it's gonna be big and fat. Ein Flugmodell oder... It's like half dog, half bunny. And then you'll have a green like edge for like a frame. And his glasses are gonna have cute little ice cream cones. Una máquina. Una casa máquina. A Tyrannosaurus Rex. And then he makes boop, boop. Well, it's just so I can get my ideas out and then I can see what they actually look like in bricks. This is my Cronky Wonky. Questo mio Cronky Wonky. This is my Cronky Wonky. Cronky Wonky.
Thank you. So this was one of the best performing projects or campaigns that we've ever done. And one of the reasons to why it was so successful was that we had a different approach to everything that we did in this project or this campaign. Instagram was like huge for us in the way that it really drove not just clicks and likes, but what we really want to see is basically to see how kids are starting to build with Lego. So this is really what we like to see as our main core objective, is to see more beautiful Lego builds being made by a lot of different kids. We connected it with offline events, and it's very easy. Like you can see this guy in the middle, he basically stacked a lot of blue bricks together. He's super proud of it. That was his Cronky Wonky. And because it could be interpreted in so many ways, it was a perfect place starter or initiator for that creativity that we really want to highlight. So thirdly, we want to move at the pace of the consumer. And it sounds, of course, like an old-fashioned tagline, but I think the old quote from Jack Welch, that if the rate of change on the outside exceeds the rate of change on the inside, then the end will be near. And I think that's important, especially for old companies, because we tend to get too focused on our own processes and internal politics instead of actually seeing the changes in consumer behavior. So what we try to do, and the model that I introduced to the company was this one, a different way of looking at strategy. Instead of having a starting point with insights, strategy, execution, production, analysis or analytics, we basically put real-time signals at the heart of everything. So everything that we do needs always to correspond with the real-time signals that we're getting. And everything is always in draft, everything is always able to be changed based on the real-time signals that we're getting from sales, from social media, from listening, from no matter what kind of data we can get. So that was an important way of thinking. So this is how we operate, already started operating a long time ago. This is during a big project, so these dashboards are touch dashboards, so you can always check out how this asset is doing in Germany compared to France, compared to Russia, and then you can see the impact instantly. And then we need to, of course, have people sitting there, because we can automate a lot of things, but we need to have people sitting there making those decisions and making those trade-offs. So here you have the entire team that is running a project like the Cronky Wonky in 20 markets. We have back-end data people from Facebook sitting there. We are doing all media spend in-house. It's easier, it's cheaper, it's better. And then we have the creatives also ready to develop content and sign it off. So this is how we basically try to understand big data. I think big data is great, but we also need to make sure that we can understand it. So instead of having data scientists sitting there, 100 people at the time, we develop dashboards so they can quickly, everyone can quickly see, yes, the red dot is bigger than the blue dot, I need to do something. If the blue dot is bigger than the red dot, we're great, I can focus on something else. So that's how we constantly try to focus on taking agility into actually real-time production. Our video production is live. We don't do focus groups. We test everything live. So basically what we do is every time we do an edit, we put it live to 100,000 people on YouTube. We put it live for 72 hours, and then we take it down, re-edit everything based on the data that we received, put another edit out, and then we do that 3 times, and then we think that we have the optimal video. We might be able to increase a few percentages more if we do it on and on and on, but it doesn't really add incremental value. So this is, for instance, how you can see the impact of the first edit compared to the second edit. We do that with TV commercials as well. Put it on YouTube, test it out. There's a big lab called Reality. It works much, much better than a focus group, and that's really creating a lot of impact for us. So how does it actually look like when we do this way of producing things almost real time? So this is part of our YouTube studios. This guy is an influencer. He had all the right credentials. He should appeal to the right group of people. We brought him in, made some videos with him, and it was pretty good, pretty decent numbers, and we had some good people to produce it. We have an in-house team doing all of these things. But then we found out that every time he was on the screen in the edit, we saw a tiny drop-off. So instead of having him in there, we just cut him out and then only took his hands. He was not too happy about it, but it's much cheaper to buy hands than to buy faces. And here we saw an uplift on VTR and all of the other key metrics, more than 25%, just because we did that data research and really, really quickly turn around everything. The fourth, embrace diversity. I think to avoid getting disrupted, the worst thing you can do is to have people like yourself in the same team and sitting making the same decisions. If I was sitting together with 9 other guys from Denmark, who's grown up, traveled the world, with the same education, we would make the same mistakes on and on and on. We would probably also make some good things, but we would risk making a lot of mistakes. So the team that I'm in charge of, and here you have the leadership team of my team, 35 different nationalities. I think diversity, it's so much more than just men and women. It's really about cultural backgrounds. It's about your perspective on everything. It's about your travel in life, your experiences in life. And that means that we around the table in London, we can have discussions about how this will be seen by the Chinese market, or how a Russian social media platform will be able to use this content or this strategy. So that's hugely important. And I think a good example on how to actually take that into action and how to show that actually can also impact your approach to actually reaching out to people is the example that I'm going to show here from Coca-Cola.
It's the Super Bowl, an American sports institution, arguably the biggest day of the year for TV advertising. In a sea of huge production budgets and big brand promises, How does Coca-Cola become more than just Coca-Cola? Tell their story about the real America and the people in it, the diverse, welcoming America that belongs to every person who calls her home. A commercial airs during the Super Bowl, a commercial that's beautiful to many, but controversial to some. The noise begins, but then a positive conversation begins, canceling out all the noise. And everyone is there to witness the change in the palm of their hand. Using selects from the film, we crafted individual, relevant messages to specifically targeted custom audiences on Facebook, inviting them to take part in our story. An experience so personal and at such incredible scale has never been done before. We even took unused behind-the-scenes footage, telling the stories of the real people and families in the film, and shared it with key audience segments, keeping the positive conversation growing even after the commercial aired. Coca-Cola changed a nation's perception of what makes our land beautiful, giving the opportunity for the real America to speak on Facebook for everyone to hear. Coca-Cola has spoken, and they've said, America is beautiful.
It's a clap at Coca-Cola. He's sitting there. So, the fifth one, of course, create business value. That's hugely important, and that's like at the end of the day, that's why we are in a company. When I came to the company, I wanted to show that we could do much more than just create sales. So I put this matrix in place to make sure that we could show that we would be focused on creating, of course, sales, but also building the brand affinity. We would increase our ability to do marketing in an efficient way. And then, of course, we would protect the brand in social media wherever it might occur. And then based on that, we built a 7-year journey where we would build the competencies, we would integrate in every kind of aspect of the value chain, and then on top of that, we would then build the capabilities here. So how do we increase sales? So this is a platform where we crowdsource ideas. So basically, you can upload an idea. If you have a great idea about a Lego product, you can upload it, and then 4 times a year, we pick one of the best ones, and then we come out with a real product. So all of this is just fan-created. You can see the amount of work that people put into these sets. Even the marketing material, everything is done already. And these are just some of the many sets that we have produced. We don't have a marketing budget behind it, so in the future of advertising, here's a different demand creation model. We don't need to do exposure marketing for these Lego sets because the engagement that has been built up during this crowdsourcing phase has created kind of a vacuum in the market. So when we drop these products, they basically are being, like they fly off the shelves, if they even make it to the shelves before they're sold out. So a different way to actually really approach this. And then finally, I think it's important always, and I intend to constantly remind my team about, like, we need to do the right things instead of doing the usual things. It is so easy to just do what you're used to do, follow the procedures, follow things, but you still sometimes know that this is not what we really should do to go forward. And I also need to ask myself, like, I've been leading social media for a while, are we doing the usual thing or are we doing the right thing? And I think social media, I think it was and has been for a while, it's been an isolated, siloed team in many companies. In some companies, it's still driven by the interns, sitting at the back of the office, because they're the only one who really gets social media. But social media, as I can see it, is moving more and more upwards, and it's becoming a more and more central part of communication development, communication strategy, and communication planning. We use the term, and also have heard it many times elsewhere, about being social first. We need to make sure that the campaign idea works on social media before we actually decide to make it on TV. It's quite easy to make something that actually really works, a simple idea on social, work on TV, but it's very difficult to make a TV campaign that doesn't work on social, really make it fly. So I think that is what we will see in the future. We'll see social becoming more and more centrally part of all kinds of communication planning. So just to wrap up, The core competency that we want to develop, that is change. We need to think like kids. We want to use kids as an example. We shouldn't craft a message. We should create a stage for people to experience, for people to really get excited, and for them to be part of the story. We want to move at the pace of the consumer. We want to make sure that we embrace diversity in all kinds of shapes and sizes. And we want, of course, to create business impact. And we do that by doing the right things and not by doing the usual things. A final video from Lego is done by Lego fans and shows how you can also hijack other people's brands if you are creative enough.
So one backup, and we can proceed for ILS straight into stop. Direct to the left, the small taxi track, and hold before the runway. Right on the C-130 is backtracking, preparing for departure. Flap 1, okay. Stall closing and call aboard. 5, welcome.
Wait for movement. Engage.
Maximum, local, after that, down to market back.
Location. Nearby.
Felix, you are clear to jump at your own discretion. I'm on my own. Fair, Vienna, 25th to 28th of October.
Those were the words. Please feel free to connect online in any kind of social media. I'm pretty much on all of it, so feel free to connect. Thank you so much.
Bueno, y como lo escuchó, sus inquietudes se le pueden escribir por el hashtag FOA Lars Silberbauer. Y ahora vamos a recibir a Raúl Vaz con nuestro último Q&A, así que vamos a darle un fuerte aplauso.
Muy cool esta marca, ¿no? Por favor, levanten la mano aquellos que se han identificado con esta marca, ya sea o de niños o adultos o que sus hijos estén identificados. Levanten la mano. As you can see, a lot of people here identify with the brand either because of the children or them. Creo que una de las cosas que cada vez que mi esposa me diga que soy un inmaduro, que es bastante seguido, le diré, no soy inmaduro, pienso como niño y Lego me lo fomenta. Entonces, I just told them that every time my wife says that I'm immature, I'll say, no, I think like a child, and Lego pushes me to do so.
There are kids of many ages.
Exactly. ¿Escucharon? One of the things, voy a empezar haciendo, les pido de favor que aquellos que tengan Twitter, entren a la cuenta de Lars, o sea, su cuenta de Twitter, que es Lars Silberbauer, por favor, y quiero que vean su último tweet. Okay, I'm speaking about your last tweet. La foto que, no sé si la pueden ver. Exactamente. O sea, digo, ahí lo tienen, o sea, no lo tengo que leer. Esto está muy cool. O sea, un empleado de la marca que se cree la misma estrategia, o sea, es protagonista de la marca de su empresa. What I just said is this, I mean, you really bought the strategy of your company. I mean, you're putting it in play. This is not something very commonly seen, unfortunately. Do you think that the success that you've had on social media is because you've involved, or the people inside the company have gotten involved directly with the social media strategy, or it's two different things?
Absolutely. Like, I tend to say that, like, if you want to be good at social media, it's about relations, it's about human beings, it's about emotions. And you can't do that just by investing your money. You need to invest yourself. You need to put yourself out there. You need to learn from your consumers. You need to learn from everyone who has an opinion about the brand. And that requires a bit of guts. You actually need to put yourself out there. It's very easy to hire a moderation agency or a social media agency, but they will never get the learnings that you can have as a brand. So every time I see a company that outsources their social media presence, I also see a company that really tries to avoid the consumer and try to get the consumer at a very far distance. It's not easy to do social media. It's a lot of noise, and it's not an easy process to actually take that in, especially not at scale. But you can learn so much, and you don't want to hand it over to someone else to have that intimate contact with the consumer.
Some people think that because it looks easy, it is easy. How much time do you invest in strategizing? I mean, like in content creation, strategy, internal meetings? Because, I mean, it's extremely common that when something looks simple, for example, this took time. I mean, this is part of a strategy, obviously. And having fun.
5 minutes.
Do you have fun at your work?
Well, I think, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I have fun sometimes. I'm sure we both, like all of us, have fun sometimes, and sometimes we do have less fun. I think for us, we try to spend as much time as possible on creating the content and as little as possible on sitting in meetings, analyzing things, and doing all of that typical corporate work, because it's not really creating value. And because the target is moving so fast, the platforms are moving so fast, we need to be out there. We need to take action constantly. We cannot really build year on year, because the algorithms are changing, and what result we might have had last month, we will not have that next year as well.
I think a lot of people here would identify with think as a child, promoting that we should think as children. We should probably sometimes even behave as children, because adults can be morons sometimes. But in an office or in our daily lives, what would be like some advice, 3 or 4 points on how to behave as children and take advantage of that creativity? Because one of the things that makes creativity is exactly thinking like children. Children are very creative, but how could we take advantage of this ideal of thinking, behave, and think as children?
I think a good quote that I really adhere to is a quote that you don't stop playing because you grow old because you stop playing. So we need to constantly remind ourselves about play in any kind of work that we do. And again, like, that's where the new ideas are coming from, that's where innovation is happening, that's when you start playing. Like, kids, they never make a mistake, they learn from it. And I think that's another really important part of business life. Don't be afraid of making those mistakes, but really you need to take those chances to create those learnings, and that's what we will constantly do. We don't recommend people to be foolish and stupid and throw around with money, but we want them to take chances and take risks, because then we actually will learn.
I think I'm going to just take the last question from Rafael Gutierrez. He's been active. What has been the key for such wonderful collaborations with other world-leading brands? What could other brands learn from your experience in collaboration?
I think we are fortunate that a lot of the tech companies, there are Lego fans in those companies. Like, we have sleeping cells in those companies that we can activate when we want to. We had a meeting with a top-to-top meeting with Google last week, and the story that we always remind ourselves and remind them of is that the first Google server was actually built with Lego bricks, because they couldn't have ventilation built into that server in another way, so they built it out of Lego, and that's still part of the museum at Google. So I think for us, it's been that there's a lot of love for the product, and that makes it a lot easier for us to connect with all of those brands and all of those platforms. And then, of course, because it's a creative brand, it's a creative product, so it does lend itself very, very well to collaborations and IPs.
This has been probably my favorite tweet of the year. Congratulations for a great brand and the great work. Señores, un aplauso a Lars, por favor, por su gran trabajo.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming here.